G'day, welcome back to the channel and welcome to this edition of MGUY EV News for Friday the 31st of May 2024. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, make sure you enable all notifications so you never miss another video. So more bad news for the EV market in the UK as dealers have to slash prices in order to get people to buy it. Electric car prices to fall further as car makers scramble for buyers. Car makers racing to boost sales as net zero targets loom, Auto Trader says. Electric car prices will fall further this year as manufacturers resort to heavier discounting in an effort to boost sales, the boss of Auto Trader has predicted. Nathan Coe, Auto Trader's chief executive, said discounts were increasing month to month and we do expect that to continue. He said getting consumers to buy new cars from retailers generally is challenging, and we've seen discounts go from effectively nothing up to around 10% or so today on average. That's true of petrol vehicles and EVs, but a bit more so for EVs because they are just not, in the minds of consumers, going to command such a big premium over their petrol counterparts. The level of price reductions has already reached record highs this year, with new EVs sold at an average discount of 10.6% in April on the online dealers marketplace. Petrol and diesel cars are also being discounted, but not as heavily, data from the company shows. Mr. Coe said he expected the EV price cuts to get deeper still in the coming months as car makers seek to meet net zero sales targets. The government introduced the zero emissions vehicle mandate in January, requiring at least 22% of car makers' sales to be electric this year, regardless of demand. Well, the UK is in a far worse place than many at the moment, with that ridiculous target of 22%, which increases to 28%, I think, next year, and goes up in steps of up to 14% per year. What's going to happen is that auto manufacturers are going to pull back on selling petrol and diesel cars and just push EVs. They will actually limit the number of internal combustion engine cars that are allowed into the UK so that whatever tiny fraction of sales are EVs will be larger compared to the total. Absolute madness. And a timely reminder, if we needed one, why EV fires are so much worse than just regular fires. They are incredibly difficult to put out and they can close roads for hours and hours and hours while firefighters try and fix it. Here's a quick video.
And look at this, firefighters using a special blanket to put out an electric vehicle fire. This happened just after 11 yesterday morning. Wow, all that smoke. This happened on South Parker Road at the Pinery, and thankfully no one was hurt. South Metro Fire is still investigating what exactly started the blaze. Oh my goodness, that car. Whew.
Well, I think we can guess what started the fire. It would have been a battery, or it doesn't matter. Actually, it doesn't matter what started it because once the battery gets going, yeah, cactus anyway. So Geely, which is one of the huge conglomerate auto manufacturers in China, is going to launch hybrids because even they can see the writing on the wall for EVs. China's Geely to launch hybrids with more fuel-efficient engines. China's Geely Holdings Group on Wednesday said it would launch a series of hybrid models in the first half of next year, equipped with its next-generation, more fuel-efficient engine. But, we've all got to go EV. Geely's engine achieves a thermal efficiency of up to 46.1%, according to a product certificate issued by the government-owned Qatar Huacheng Certification Co. Geely said this was among the highest in the world and would reduce fuel consumption and extend driving range. The new models will be launched for Geely Auto's Galaxy series and its Lynk & Co brand. Plug-in hybrids are the fastest growing fuel type sector in China thanks to their affordability, and competition in the sector is intensifying. Well, regular hybrids are probably the way to go as an interim step because they increase fuel efficiency, they reduce emissions, but at the same time they have the backing of a combustion engine to get you through when the going gets tough. And even the big Chinese manufacturers are starting to realize that. Polestar. What can you say about Polestar? Its shares are now worth less than $1 each. Overheated EV market evaporates 95% of Polestar's shareholder value. Polestar's stock price has dropped below $1, putting the Swedish automaker's listing on the Nasdaq in jeopardy. The writing was on the wall even as the electric vehicle startup Polestar went public with a $21 billion valuation nearly 2 years ago. The Geely-controlled automaker began trading on the Nasdaq just as a pandemic-powered economic recession threatened to pop the EV stock bubble. On the first day of trading, a Friday, Polestar's stock spiked 16%, but almost the entire gain was wiped out the following Monday when the price tumbled 15%. Since then, investor wariness of high-risk EV startups has cratered Polestar's share price, down nearly 95% from its IPO. On May 21st, the stock dipped below $1, jeopardizing the Swedish automaker's listing. On Wednesday, the stock closed at an all-time low of 73 cents. There you go. That's a market that's just booming, isn't it, Bloomberg? And this is the clash of the titans. In the red corner, you have EVs and electrification driven by mad EV mandates and net zero. And in the blue corner, you have artificial intelligence and data centers. And they're both fighting for electricity. Just at the same time as we're closing all our coal plants and relying on farts and sunbeams. Wind and solar. So guess what? US slows plans to retire coal plants as power demand from AI surges. New technologies are straining countries' power supplies and cutting plans to reduce generation of the fuel by nearly half. The staggering electricity demand needed to power next-generation technology is forcing the US to rely on yesterday's fuel source, coal. Let me just tell you something. Yesterday's fuel source is going to be tomorrow's fuel source, and the day after, and the year after that, and the decade after that, in places like China and India. It's only us idiots in the West that think we can do without it. Good luck with that. Retirement dates for the country's ageing coal fleet are getting pushed back as concerns over grid reliability and expectations of soaring power demand force operators to keep capacity online. The shift in coal retirement plans underscores a growing dilemma facing the Biden administration as the US race to lead in AI and manufacturing drives an unprecedented growth in power demand that clashes with its decarbonisation targets. Yes, it does. Isn't it beautiful? The International Energy Agency estimates the AI application ChatGPT uses nearly 10 times as much electricity as Google search. An estimated 54 gigawatts of US coal assets, about 4% of the country's total electricity capacity, is expected to retire by the end of the decade, a 40% downward revision from last year, according to S&P Global Commodity Insights, citing reliability concerns. And in today's statement of the bleeding obvious, you can't replace the fossil plants fast enough to meet the demand, said Joe Kraft, Chief Executive of Alliant Resource Partners, one of the largest US coal producers. In order to be a first mover on AI, we're going to need to embrace maintaining what we have. Absolutely. How the West thinks that it can do without coal and oil and gas, while China and India cannot burn the stuff fast enough. It's just hilarious, really. And here's another similar story from the UK. Same story. Britain's creaking power grid leaves green energy revolution adrift. Why is this coming as a shock to people? I mean, it's obvious. It was obvious decades ago that this would happen. But apparently it's coming as a shock. Portsmouth, England. British ferry operator Whitelink, that's to the Isle of Wight, wants to order a $60 million state-of-the-art electric ferry to make its crossings cleaner and greener, but it can't commission the vessel until it gets a power upgrade. The company carries 4 million islanders, holidaymakers and festival goers every year on a 5 nautical mile crossing between England's picturesque southern coast and the Isle of Wight. The strait, known as the Solent, is popular with yachts and leisure craft, while much of the coastline is protected. Whitelink has funding in place for an electric-powered car ferry that would reduce emissions both at sea and in port, following in the path of pioneer Norway, which introduced the world's first in 2015. Yes, and has 95% of the grid generation on bloody hydroelectric. Don't compare with Norway. The government has said decarbonising maritime transport is essential, while China can't burn coal fast enough. to achieving Britain's net zero target by 2050. Domestic maritime vessels represented around 5% of Britain's greenhouse gas emissions from transport in 2020, more than rail and buses combined, the government said in a 2022 report. And the long average lifespan of vessels means that greener ships must start being deployed by next year or else to achieve a green fleet by the 2050 deadline. Again, pointless deadlines. You can guarantee that will screw everything up. But interviews with 22 people, including investors, power company employees, government officials, Whitelink staff and countryside campaigners, revealed that long waits for grid connections combined with planning obstacles are putting millions of pounds of green transport investment at risk. We want to go electric. We think it's the right thing, Whitelink Chief Executive Keith Greenfield, good name, told Reuters on board a hybrid ferry, which uses diesel to charge electric batteries, saving around 20% in emissions. We're held back by a lack of shore power. And this is the nub of the problem, the absolute shed load of electricity they need to charge this ferry. For Whitelink, the hunt for a connection has been fraught. In 2022, SSEN, which stands for Scottish and Southern Electricity Network, which is bizarre because it's like two different ends of the country, quoted Whitelink £4.6 million for 12 megawatt connections to power the chargers it needs to install in Portsmouth and Fishbourne, according to documents seen by Reuters. The units must charge the electric ferry in the 20 minutes it has between sailings. See, rather than just tip in a whole bunch of diesel, you have to have a 12 megawatt connection to the grid. Madness. Oh, Jaguar is one of those iconic brands that has just drunk the Kool-Aid and is going all EV. I think I saw something this week on Twitter about the last petrol-driven Jaguar rolling off the production line. Well, see you later, Jaguar. And now, obviously, it has to train all its mechanics because it costs so much to repair electric cars. Jaguar Land Rover trains thousands of electric car mechanics amid high repair costs. Training effort comes as car maker prepares to launch first all-electric Range Rover. The same dickheads that buy the Cybertruck will buy the electric Range Rover, that's for sure. Thousands of electric car mechanics are being trained by Jaguar Land Rover amid concerns that a skills shortage is forcing drivers to pay more for repair costs. The company on Thursday announced it had now trained 95% of the mechanics at its affiliated garages to handle electric vehicles, EVs, equivalent to more than 10,000 people globally. Well, all I can say is good luck with that, Jaguar, because EVs are actually harder to repair than internal combustion engine cars. The battery, basically, once the battery's damaged, that's it. Chuck it, get a new one. You can't just replace the failed part like you can on an internal combustion engine car. You have to replace the whole battery, basically, or take it apart and strip down the cells, and it's dangerous because there's so much high voltage around. Who'd want to be an EV mechanic? Seriously. Who'd want to be an EV mechanic? That's just about it for this one. Thanks very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. See you in the next one. Bye for now.